Man's accomplishments are usually derived from major setbacks throughout their journey to success. The Apollo 13 mission was no different. A very significant mechanical failure of the spacecraft resulted in a major accomplishment that required innovation, initiative, and human perseverance. Although the Apollo 13 mission failed to complete its original objective, it was a success since the astronauts in mission control were able to use their vigilance and ingenuity to ensure the crew would re-enter Earth alive despite the tragic accident. Captain James A. Lovell was appointed commander of the Apollo 13 mission. He was accompanied by Jack Swigert, the command module pilot, and Fred W. Hayes, the lunar module pilot. They would land on the moon, and Lovell and Hayes would collect rock samples and study its topography. Apollo 13 was launched April 11, 1970 at exactly 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time at Kennedy Space Center, Florida, on Platform 39A. The launch was flawless, with the exception of the center engine that shut off 2 minutes earlier than expected. The first 2 days of this mission went as planned. The world did not express much interest in this voyage. It was just another mission to the moon. Yet all that suddenly changed on April 13, 1970. On April 13, 1970, the last video broadcast from Apollo 13 was made to Earth. No one was expecting the immense catastrophe that transpired only minutes after, that would forever alter the fate of Apollo 13 and the Apollo program. After the crew's excellent broadcast, Mission Control told them to stir the oxygen tanks once more before getting some sleep. These essential oxygen tanks, along with the hydrogen tanks, were what powered the spacecraft's fuel cells and were also used as breathing air. 9 minutes later, at 55 hours, 54 minutes, and 53 seconds in space, Houston received a significant warning signal from Apollo 13.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Yes, Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by.
At first, Mission Control was unaware of the problem until moments after. Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes had heard a piercing bang in the spacecraft. It was the oxygen tanks they had stirred. All the scientists knew was that something happened that caused oxygen tank number 2 to lose all of its oxygen and to damage oxygen tank number 1, which was slowly leaking also.
We did not expect exactly the problem that we had during the course of the mission, but we were very well prepared for problems occurring during the mission, and this was really the key.
When Lovell looked outside of his window after this explosion, there seemed to be some sort of gas the spacecraft was venting, which was most likely to be oxygen. This was a major disaster. The astronauts could no longer land on the moon as NASA foreboded with only one oxygen tank. The mission had to be terminated 56 hours into space. Mission Control knew that the odds of the crew returning were not good. Calls were being made out every minute to engineers and astronauts that worked at NASA from all over the country as they rushed to Mission Control as fast as they could. They needed all of the help they could get to come up with a new plan to bring the crew home. That was a crucial goal now. The whole world was now watching and praying as tensions mounted to bring the astronauts home. Eugene, Kranz, NASA flight director, gave the order and procedure for the crew to power down the command module 2 hours after the explosion to conserve power. They would power up the lunar module and transfer the navigation data to the lunar module computer. John Aaron, the ECOM officer, was assigned to keep track of the electrical power supply of the spacecraft and to make sure that as much of the power was stored as long as possible. The Aquarius was made to keep 2 men alive for 2 days. Now it had to keep 3 men alive for about 3 to 4 days. This seemed almost impossible to do. To go back home, a major decision had to be made. They could turn around right now and head back to Earth, or use a free trajectory plan around the moon. Jerry Bostick, the chief flight dynamics officer, knew that to turn around now and re-enter Earth was too risky. It was decided that the best choice was to use the free trajectory method, swing around the moon, and head back to Earth.
My specific role, I guess, was trying to make sure that all of us together were doing everything that we could from a trajectory and guidance point to get them back home safely.
Once the free trajectory burn was made using the lunar module descent engine, Jerry Bostick knew that the crew saw some hope. More problems started to occur on Apollo 13. Each day, the temperature dropped dramatically. This was especially terrible for the equipment because water started to condense on the electrical panels of both the Odyssey and Aquarius, bringing fears that the command module would not restart during re-entry, but stay frozen in its icy state. Carbon dioxide was building up in the spacecraft as well. To solve this problem, Ed Smylie, the chief of the Crew Systems Division, helped come up with a device that would increase the level of lithium hydroxide to eliminate the excess carbon dioxide.
The CO2 got up to about twice what we would normally have in the cabin, the crew, and put it into operation. Then the carbon dioxide level dropped to almost an imperceptible level.
Without this important invention, the crew would have suffered major intoxication of carbon dioxide, which would have killed them faster than the unknown events that lay ahead. A plan had not yet been devised for re-entry, and time was extremely short on their hands. Mission Control scrambled to come up with an idea of the way the crew would re-enter Earth. Finally, John Aaron came up with a primary plan that he hoped would work. He made a decision to keep the power of the command module off only until the crew was getting closer to splashdown right before re-entry.
I led a team that designed the sequence to power the command module back up just before it hit the atmosphere, so that we could come into the atmosphere in a controlled way.
This was against NASA's normal procedures, but it was their only choice, and Eugene Kranz agreed with this decision. On April 17, 1970, the crew first jettisoned the service module, which was severely damaged. They then jettisoned the lunar module about 1.5 hours before the Odyssey was sucked to Earth at about 12 p.m. Houston time. It would be tragic for the world to see if the crew did not survive the last minutes of the mission. No help from NASA could facilitate the fate of what could happen in entry and splashdown. The question was, though, what next? Would the crew make it home alive?
Odyssey Houston standing by, over.
Okay, go over.
Odyssey Houston, we show you on the mains. It really looks great.
It was a success. The Odyssey splashed down in the mid-Pacific at 12:07 p.m. Houston time, close to the recovery ship USS Iwo Jima. Even though the primary mission of Apollo 13 had to be aborted, it was a definite triumph because they were able to come home alive. Other triumphs include experiments for electrical disturbances in the atmosphere which could affect marginal weather launches, the height of clouds at high altitudes, 11 important photographs taken of the moon to measure the geometric figure of the lunar surface, their ability to understand the impact phenomena of the moon, and the accurate amount of data the crew obtained using manual controls of the spacecraft.
Bringing the crew home was what made that mission successful in my mind, in my team's mind, and actually in the view of the world. The entire world watched what we were doing, and everybody celebrated with us the return of the crew.
This miracle of Apollo 13 has always been noted for mission control and the crew's perseverance, resourcefulness, and bravery that kept these heroes working and solving problems they would never have dreamed would occur. As Jerry Bostick has said, it greatly reinforced our concept of teamwork. Teamwork was something we always talked about and believed in, but Apollo 13 gave us living proof of how important it was. On future missions, we tried even harder to figure out how we could help out each other. The astronauts and the flight controllers could all be very best and perform their individual jobs in an outstanding manner, but without teamwork, the mission would be a failure. Eugene Kranz, John Aaron, Jerry Bostick, and Ed Smylie were just some of the many heroes of this mission, as well as the 3 brave and courageous astronauts who underwent this ordeal. Apollo 13 was a success that will be remembered for the initiative, ingenuity, and innovation that stretched human minds to the extreme. April 13, 1970.